This episode of Small Town Western New York was made possible by the following supporters. Hi, on this episode of Small Town Western New York, I'm taking a day trip down to the well-loved town of Boston. You see, what most of us actually think of as Boston is really North Boston and a sub-community called Creekside. It's the area where the 219 meets the 391 and the 277. And it's really all that most of us Western New Yorkers get to see of the town. But today, on this episode, I want to show you some of the areas in town that most of us don't get to see. I got into town early that morning, at least a good hour before I was supposed to meet Frank Gamble, the town's historian, for a tour of the place. So I decided to keep driving a little further down Boston State Road a few miles until I ran into a small triangular park area that comes complete with some local businesses and features a few veterans' monuments and memorials. This is the type of place that I live to discover. You can really feel the history here. Even just driving by, you catch it. But step out of the car and get a good look around, and it's just hanging in the air. I could have even spent more time there exploring that side of town, but daylight was quickly burning, and after a short walk that quickly found me up in the woods capturing a couple of deer crossing the creek with my camera, my now early arrival had quickly turned into an almost late, hurried departure that soon found me scrambling up to the town hall and my meeting with Frank.
Tony, welcome to Boston.
Thank you.
You're in front of Boston's Town Hall. This was built in the 1970s. Actually replaced the old Town Hall, which is sitting across the street today.
Wait, the church?
Yeah.
The church was
the old
town
church
hall.
was the town hall.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a makeshift town hall? They had a little desk in back?
Well, they had a few
like
things
a Peanuts
in there.
with a sign.
Believe it or not, we had a police department back in those days as well. So two police, Boston police actually worked out of there.
Oh, that's funny.
And then here as well once that was built. But Town Hall is an awesome place. Not only do you have Justice of Peace there, supervisor office, town clerk, but a lot of the recreational items go on out there. We've got baseball, soccer, they do football, cheerleading. I mean, it's amazing. We'll have parades. Memorial Day parade comes down. They do the service out in the back there, and I mean, it's just an awesome area. Tennis courts right over here.
So it's very much a congregational, it's not just, I mean, it's like the quintessential old-fashioned town hall.
Yes, very much so. And you get that feeling. You walk down the hallway in there and you're looking at photos going back in time, and it's just amazing just to see that, including the town hall that preceded the one we just talked about.
Right. Frank's pride in such a beautiful town hall and adjoining park was well justified, as it is really an impressive campus for a town of this size. But as I was pulling into the town hall lot before our meeting, I noticed a clock area out on the small green in front of the building, and I couldn't help but inquire about it.
A couple decades back, they decided, you know what, let's put a little bit of the past out there. They even called it out turning back the clock, which was kind of cool, and they put up the old clock here,
That's awesome.
to say. So the community with the Boston Chamber of Commerce and others got involved, funded, and we put this together out here.
And you've got the bricks, and you've got the bench, and it's all the dedicated, sponsored type of thing.
And the citizens came together with that too, and donations, and it just puts it all together as a community.
As Frank finished telling me about the clock, he said he had to show me something across the street at Maplewood Cemetery. But first, we spent a few minutes out in front of the wrought iron fence admiring the place, and certainly, for me, admiring the gate, as I just love these gilded-aged iron cemetery gates that we seem to have all over the small towns in Western New York. But being the historian that he is, and certainly in his wheelhouse, Frank soon began spinning tales about some of the graveyard's most famous residents as we walked among the headstones. And one tale that really caught my attention was about a man whose multiple convicted murderers' hangings were attended by tens of thousands in the city back in the early 1800s, and whose last name was, ironically, of all things, Love.
John Love, who was a trader, not a trader to the country, but a trader as far as merchant. He was murdered December 15th, 1825, in the town of Boston by Israel, Isaac, and Nelson Thayer, the Thayer brothers, as they're known. They were hung from a common scaffold on June 17th, 1825, at Lafayette Square, downtown Buffalo, after confessing to the crimes.
After our cemetery tour, Frank and I walked a few hundred yards up the street to another, albeit much lighter tone, notable site he wanted to show me, the Anthony Homestead, which in its day really put Boston on a map and was a popular country retreat. bringing people from all over the region into town for multiple day stays.
It's like a lot of the hidden treasures here in Boston. This house has been around for generations, right? So this is a brochure of the Anthony Homestead that sits right here. So back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, this homestead was actually like a modern day bed and breakfast.
Sure,
right?
sure. Well, it was our Airbnb, right.
So back then, 100 acres, people would come in on the trolley, the old train that used to run through here.
Sure.
This was a destination spot to relax for the summer.
And it was probably the only one of its type, correct? At that point.
At that point, marketing-wise, think about that. How much marketing went into things in 1817, 1818
Yeah.
during the war
Well,
years?
what did you have?
Nothing,
you know?
right? For this to happen down here was an amazing thing. And this brochure is, you know, very unique to say the least.
This is so funny. So they would just probably put these all over train stations or maybe other hotels, who knows?
Oh, everywhere.
You know?
And up in Buffalo. I mean, look at the last paragraph in there, right? It's to contact someone up in
yes,
the
it's for
area,
detailed information.
right?
Phone Tupper 6369W.
There you go.
Buffalo, or after June 15th, call the Homestead.
Go.
How awesome is that?
Open for the summer, right?
Right.
From that aspect. And of course, you know, camping and whatnot, getting out on the property, a lot of livestock running around, including cows.
Yeah, we've got a cowbell.
We had cows out there. Right?
Sure, and there was the factory here. Dude, that was a perfect tie-in. Thanks.
Yes, us Western New Yorkers mostly come to Boston for our Georges, or we come on a hot sunny day for our Charlabs. But if you take the time to take a drive just a little further down the road when you're in town, you'll be rewarded with some of Western New York's oldest history surrounding you everywhere you go. And you'll certainly discover a few surprises along the way. And you'll realize what I came to learn on my first day discovering it all. That Boston is so much more than just a pit stop off of the 219.
The park behind me is called Boston Commons, and it includes some small businesses and a veterans memorial. But it really reminds me of the old authentic Boston that I came here to find. And I here even used to have a bandstand. During the town's inception, it was actually called Boston Center, and you would have found the typical farms of the day with wool, saw, and grist mills peppered all along the banks of 18 Mile Creek here. But sadly, there's hardly any evidence of their existence left today. The largest bell factory in the U.S. was located just behind me here below the cemetery, producing up to 500 common sheep bells a day, including staples and hasps. But once the town's pastures were all fenced up, there was really no need for bells anymore, and the factory was shut down. The road to Springville was and is a very important part of Boston's history. And like all seminal roads in Western New York, it was built on a well-used Native American trail. In 1909, New York State finally took the road over, literally paving the way for the automobile and changing the nature of rural travel between the towns forever.